It's time for the Freedom in 5 Minutes podcast. Powerful and liberating business strategies you can start in 5 minutes or less. Now, here's your host, Dean Soto.
Hey, this is Dean Soto, founder of freedomin5minutes.com and prosulam.com. And we're here again with another Freedom in 5 Minutes podcast episode. Today's topic is this: specialists in your business and in any business are stupid. That and more coming up. Well, good evening. I just took my son right now. We're at his martial arts class. I'm going to be walking around. You're going to hear some cars in the background, but that's okay. Let's just talk. Let's talk. All right. Let's talk. So, hey, how's it going? So, growing up, it's funny because, this is not just in a business. So, let me go rewind the clock a bit, shall we? So growing up, I always had this issue. It reared its ugly head in school, predominantly was the first place, but then it started rearing its head also in the workplace when I started getting into my full-time job and so on and so forth. But one of the things was that during elementary school, all the way up into junior high, and then high school, and then ultimately college, I really had no idea what I wanted to do. I remember, it really was from the time I met my wife, or my soon-to-be wife, or my prospective wife, that I even decided like an actual true major. I was majoring in Japanese, and then I majored in music, and then eventually I was like, you know what, screw this. I just want to get out of school. I want to get my degree because my wife wasn't going to marry me if I didn't have it. And I'm like, I'm just going to do business administration. It was the easiest, it was the fastest, and it looked good on my resume if I was going to get a job, that paid well, right? So the thing about business administration was, and I still remember to this day, I was working at a company. I don't even think they exist in the same way anymore, but I was working at a company called DMJM plus Harris. So DMJM Harris, and it was a civil engineering company, and within the organization, I want to say there was probably maybe 50 people within that organization. Everything from civil engineers to structural engineers to finance to accountants to project schedulers and things and so on and so forth. And so what I was doing there was I was an administrative assistant, and it was really cool because it was one of the funnest jobs, no joke, it was one of the funnest jobs I had. And I couldn't put my finger on why I actually enjoyed that job as much as I did, but I'll get to why that is in just a little bit. So I go, the thing about this organization was there were obviously a lot of skilled people, especially in structural engineering. They're building bridges, they're building roads, they're building things that thousands and millions and maybe even perhaps billions of people are driving over, and those things have to be perfect, right? And so I remember one day I was walking in more of the finance office, where the accountants were and so on and so forth. And I went over to this one lady. She was one of the managers, one of the finance managers there. And I actually just asked her, I didn't really know her too well, but I don't know why. I just kind of got the bug to ask her, what do you think I should do if I want to be successful, like what if I wanted to kind of get into what you do, essentially, is what I was kind of getting at. What should I do? What kind of degree should I go for? Because right now I'm going for a bachelor's in business administration. And she looked at me and she thought for a little bit, and she said, well, you want to go for something more specialized. You don't want to go for a bachelor's in business administration because it really is general. Like, you really aren't going to be able to, you're not going to be able to get, be a CPA, or you're not going to be able to get certain credentials because it's really just a general degree. It's not like you're in taxation or accounting or whatever it is that's much more specific. And it was literally at that point in time that when I heard that I became so frustrated internally. It's almost like my world shattered, completely shattered right in front of me. And you might be thinking, Dean, what's the big deal? Like, what really, it's not that big of a deal. Well, for me, I had already spent years and years and years going throughout school, getting hounded by counselors and so on as to what I wanted to do. What cog in the wheel did I want to be, right? And I could never decide. There was nothing that really where I was just like, I need to dive into this so much, where I just fall so deeply in love with this thing that I want to go. I dabbled in programming and it was fun, but then it got old. I dabbled in music, it was fun, but then I could only get so far, right? And everyone was telling me, you never want to be a jack of all trades, a master of none. You're never going to get rich that way. You're never going to see any success that way. And so when she said that, I was like, crap. Like, I think I'm totally destined just to be this wandering guy who really doesn't know what he's doing, and I'm never going to make anything of myself whatsoever. And so it's interesting because right about that time I was actually applying to Boeing Aerospace, and I did not have my bachelor's degree at that time. I didn't have my bachelor's degree at that time, but I did have a security clearance. And that was kind of a big thing for Boeing. So in my resume when I was applying, I applied for this industrial security job. I didn't even quite know what it was. But it sounded like it wasn't like armed security where I'm wearing a uniform or anything like that. It was more like protecting government secrets. And so I thought, wow, that's kind of cool. That sounds pretty interesting. And I don't think I'm going to get it. I don't have a degree or anything. And so I applied, and so I put on my resume that I was in progress of getting my bachelor's in business administration, because I still didn't know what I wanted to do. Honestly, it was the fastest still degree. So I'm like, you know what, screw it. I'm going to be destined to this life anyway. So I'm just going to go for it, right? I'm just going to keep going. And yeah, if I'm going to be this poor jack of all trades, master of none, then that's the way it's going to be, right? I cannot specialize. It's so hard for me to specialize in anything. And lo and behold, I ended up getting, as I was working at this civil engineering company, I ended up getting this, getting a call back for this position at Boeing. And we had an interview and ended up getting hired. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is interesting. I didn't think that this would happen. That's pretty cool. And so I let everyone know at this civil engineering company that I was working for, and they were super happy for me. They actually offered me a job like right beforehand, but it definitely wasn't nearly as much pay, and And so they were happy for me. They gave me a, going away lunch and everything like that. And I went to Boeing, and it was there that I was like, this is actually pretty cool, because the industrial engineering job was pretty general. I mean, it had everything from computer security to document control, document security. It had physical security, so I was climbing in rafters. I was helping to build buildings. I was doing all this stuff. I'm like, this is actually really cool. And I started seeing, wow, there's a whole thing that nobody ever talks about in any type of school or anything like that we were making good money, and it was perfect for a generalist, right? And so as I'm doing this, I'm like, this is awesome. I like it. But it was only at that time where I saw, well, why did I like that administration job so much? I love that administration job so much because I got to talk and help structural engineers. I was doing formulas and creating these really elaborate spreadsheets that would auto-calculate and auto-do all this stuff for these engineers, and learning what they needed and how they needed it to go, and what needed to be rounded up, and figure out how to make certain things not round up, and even got into just these really specialized way of doing formulas in Excel. I learned a ton of stuff in Excel. And so I'm dealing with structural engineers, project schedulers. I'm dealing with all these different people. I'm like, wow, this is so fun. And yet again, with the industrial security, it was the same thing. I'm dealing with engineers. I'm dealing with computer security guys. I'm dealing with IT guys. I'm dealing with contractors and construction workers. I'm dealing with all these people. I'm like, this is so cool. And I loved it. And I was getting promoted left and right, because it was my wheelhouse. I didn't want to specialize in anything. I loved the fact that I knew a good amount of all this stuff, and I was learning more and more every day. Oh my gosh, it was so wonderful. It was amazing. I got deep into computer security side of things, and they ended up hiring me as a computer security specialist eventually. And that was really amazing as well. So I'm getting all excited. I'm obviously making a lot more money with that because it's a more technical job. Making a lot more money with that, doing a lot of cool things. And then it all came crashing down. Not money-wise, it was fine. Not job-wise, everything was fine. But I got pigeonholed into computer security. There was two ways out. Well, there was only a couple ways out. One, leave my job. Two, get promoted to computer security regional manager. That was not going to happen because there was one of those jobs, and the person was going to stay in, and that was already there, was going to stay in there for a long time. And there was one position like that in all of like the Western United States. So that wasn't going to happen. Or I really, truly, deeply specialize as much as I possibly could into computer security. Well, I tried. Honestly, I tried my hardest. To make that happen. I tried so hard to really get nerdy and deep and technical and super specific into computer security. But you know what happened? It was extremely painful to the point where I was getting depressed. I was drinking a lot. I hated my job. I could not see a way out. It was so horrible. Like for me, it just was killing me. And it got to the point where, because a lot of the stuff that I was doing was much more of a project management anyway. I would complete a project super, super quickly and then sit around doing nothing because I really did not like the subject anymore. And it was getting so boring. It was super valuable to the company because I can come in, fix what needed to be fixed when it came to getting government compliance with computers and everything like that. They could bring me in when people were failing in government inspections and all that other stuff. Bring me in, get everything up to speed, get everything fixed, and then boom, we're all done. Everything's good to go. And that would happen over and over again. But the vast majority of the time, because I was not interested in the subject, I'm like, this sucks. I'm done. I'm just this sucks. I'm trying to do better, but I can't get anywhere because it's too specialized. And so I was feeling like the biggest failure. And it wasn't until I became an entrepreneur. And fast forward to today, where I'm leading, 50, 60, probably, maybe even when you're hearing this, over 100 people or more. When I'm leading and building organizations like that, when I'm supporting client after client and doing all of this general stuff, from accounting to payroll and all this other stuff, doing all of this with myself and a core team of four people, the other people who work for me, they work specifically for my clients. Doing all of this, I started to see that specializing sucks. I mean, they say, oh yeah, you can't really make a lot of money if you're not specializing and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, maybe in the employee world. That's true. But I'm doing just fine. I can work pretty much as little or as much as I want to. And I make way more money. And I'm not doing this to brag. And I make way more money than I ever did as a specialist, right? It's not meant to brag. This is for those people out there, for you who are a generalist, when you just didn't really know what you wanted to do. This is for you, okay? For all those people who say, oh, you need to specialize in something. You need to. You have to. Screw that. You don't. You don't. There are plenty of opportunities out there, and there are plenty of things that make you so valuable. And I like to say that I specialize in generalization. I specialize in being a general. Guess who the highest paid and the highest ranking people in the military are? They're generals, right? And why are they called generals? Because they know a good amount of everything, but don't specialize in any of it. And they lead those who specialize in it, right? So why is this important? It's important because specializing in your business as well, I think, is so dumb. This is why we have virtual systems architects at prosulum.com and freedomin5minutes.com. It's because these guys, I have a core team of 4 people. They do everything from design to copywriting to recruiting to accounting to payroll to invoicing, accounts receivable, accounts payable. They do everything. Everything. If I was going to go the traditional route of business, I would have 50 people working for me, all in some stupid department, all doing one thing in one department, right? Or 4 people in one department doing all that stuff. And just my overhead costs would go through the roof. And so when I see these organizations that have, they have their bookkeeper, and then they have their accounts receivable person, they have their accounts payable person, they have their marketer, they have their advertiser, they have all of these specialized people. I'm like, you guys are retarded. And if you're listening to this right now, you're probably thinking I'm the biggest jerk. But honestly, the way that things can be done, if you use systems, if you document everything you're doing, you do not have to specialize and have those specialists in your business, because they suck up so many resources, and they kill your overhead, right? They destroy your overhead. So how is it that, Matt from Camrock is able to do with only a few people, 2 VSAs and only a few people, he's able to do what his other competitors do when they have like hundreds of people. It's because he does not specialize. He doesn't get all these specialized people. He has people who he can train with systems. They have processes to do whatever they need to do, but they're generalists and they're able to do so many different things in that business. So it's able to grow exponentially. So, all that being said, really rethink the idea of specializing. If you need copywriting, your first gut instinct should not be, I need to hire a copywriter. If you need marketing, like a social media manager, your first gut instinct should not be, I need to hire a social media manager. Your gut instinct needs to change with the times, which is, how can I build systems and processes, some documentation around the process of social media management, get it all documented, and have someone do that. And then have someone do bookkeeping. Have that same person who does bookkeeping do the social media management. Have the same person who's doing social media management do accounts receivable and collections. How can you make that happen and get out of this realm of specialization? When you do, you'll see that your overhead costs will drop significantly. And your revenue will more than likely grow exponentially because you have these few people who are able to do everything, giving you the ability to be creative and grow in several different ways as well. So all that being said, so I have to go pick up my son. His class is done. So I will catch you in the next Freedom in 5 Minutes podcast episode. This is Dean Soto, Freedom in 5 Minutes. Go check out freedomin5minutes.com. There's a masterclass there that talks about everything that I'm talking about here. I also did a 4-video series at prosulum.com, prosulum.com. That goes through it in several days. It's really good as well. But go check out either one of those things, and you'll see just the power of what is able to be accomplished. So, excited for you guys to get into more of the generalization. I'm a proud generalist that specializes in generalization. So I'll catch you in the next Freedom in 5 Minutes episode. This is Dean Soto, freedomin5minutes.com, and I'll catch you in the next Freedom in 5 Minutes podcast episode.
Thanks for listening to the Freedom in 5 Minutes podcast. Now, head over to www.freedomin5minutes.com and register for our free masterclass and discover how to start systemizing and automating your entire business 5 minutes at a time. We'll see you next time on the Freedom in 5 Minutes podcast.